What is someone supposed to do when they're on a limited budget, but want to take steps to be healthier?
Yeah, I mean,
big question.
Yeah, lifestyle changes, and Dante obviously speaks to those very well. Are number one, if you start just piling a bunch of supplements, but you're eating, very poor diet, overweight, all that. I think we kind of know all that, besides details, I think in general, we know the lifestyle is going to be critical. And we do have a lot of people that kind of try to cover up some of those things by taking supplements. We see it a lot, and it's a natural urge. But in terms of supplements themselves, I guess is kind of the way I took it is, there's always this hot new supplement, this hot new fad, and people want to be healthy, and they want, in a lot of ways, I don't want to say this the right way, but to kind of take an easy way out via a pill or a supplement versus some of those lifestyle changes. So it's always one thing after another. And these are good supplements, but it's collagen and it's krill oil and it's these different, what about type 3 collagen? And you end up getting all these questions about things that really, I still think the basics are where to begin. And I think most importantly, individualized. So yes, you can read X article about this certain issue. But it's going to come down to what do you need? If you're getting more elderly and you have, a history of bone fractures in your family and maybe you're osteopenic, you've got to hit first and foremost, therapeutic to you, the multi mineral vitamin D products. Okay. Whereas somebody in their 30s maybe eats a poor diet, a lot of processed food, they maybe are missing a lot of micronutrients, and a multivitamin is really good for them. So it really just depends individually where you are, what your health concerns are, and what's needed. So I think in a broad sense, it's hard to answer because it would be like a presentation style.
Sure.
But it would come down to, individual concerns to me about what you need. If you eat a great diet, your need for a multivitamin goes down. It doesn't mean you're getting all those things, but it goes down versus somebody who eats a poor diet. It just does. If you're outside a lot, your vitamin D is probably okay. If you're inside all the time, you need to look at vitamin D. So again, it just really depends. I don't think it's one size fits all. There are some basic supplements that can be of benefit to anybody, but it's really, to me, starts to stratify on an individual basis.
Okay, so you said lifestyle first. Mm-hmm. Stop doing the things you know you shouldn't be doing. Start doing the things you know you should do. At some level, you can't supplement your way out of really bad habits.
Cannot, no.
Right? Okay. And then beyond that, when you do get into supplementation, that one of the keys is it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Yes.
That just because, you heard magnesium or calcium or whatever is a really great supplement doesn't mean you specifically need it. That isn't necessarily the top of the list. If you can only afford to buy one supplement, then don't just go with the one you've heard the most about.
Yes, and in particular, if you start getting more and more into herbal products, say you're on some meds, say again, you're really kind of deep into it and you're looking at a whole lot of herbs, those I think you want to be a little more careful with. Because you don't know exactly where they're coming from. Are they standardized? Are they interacting with your meds? And they may be causing some things we don't know about. Okay. So I think you'd be a little more careful with those. If you're talking vitamin D and you can get your level checked, you're talking vitamin C, you're talking, a good multivitamin, a basic dose of fish oil. In my opinion, there are exceptions to everything, but
sure.
In general, those things, you're going to be fine with those. Besides money, essentially, there's a very limited ability to have a downside there versus if you're really hitting some more, I don't want to say out there, but just, more of an herbal, or if you're dealing with really, really mega doses. When you start getting into those things, you want to be careful. But, again, you're talking normal serving size of multivitamin, maybe with the omegas, watch if you're on some blood thinning things. Like I said, there are always some concerns potentially, but in general, you're doing those things, you're doing D, you're doing mag, you're going to be fine.
Okay.
There's certainly worse things, people could be adding to their daily routine.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? There's
sure.
Those specifically do just come with a generally low side effect risk profile. And so, you're looking at quality. So what I hear is sort of quality, and at least what we've covered so far, quality and safety are the biggest things. And then also, and under those umbrellas, obviously there's a whole host of different things, depending on what medications you're on, all that kind of stuff. I don't need to repeat everything Joe said, but those are massive points. Further expanding upon the individualization of of this process, I think that everybody, depending on, where they're at in their life, they're going to have a different maybe list of non-negotiables,
Okay.
of certain products. So I don't
How
know
do you
if-
mean?
Actually, let me just add this. This was funny. As I was preparing for this, there was there was something that Dr. Peter Attia said.
Yeah.
He was talking to Huberman.
Yes.
And actually, I wasn't even preparing. I was just listening. To
You
it,
were
and
just
it
enjoying.
just enjoying. And it came up, and he said, and Attia is not very. He doesn't have a real like arrogant undertone. So it was actually a bit surprising when he said this. And I don't think he was meaning it in any sort of derogatory manner. But Huberman jokingly called this Attia's role, and he said, "Don't quibble about nutrition or supplementation until you dial in your exercise or strength." And so that's kind of what we said with the lifestyle stuff. But, Attia, he went even further and said, can you dead hang like your body weight? Can you hang from a pull-up bar for a minute without a break? Can you wall sit for 2 minutes? Can you deadlift your body weight 10 times? Like, do you have these higher standards? Like, do you have these standards set for yourself to sort of address first before you even start asking some of these more in-depth questions? So it's just, again, I'm just more or less echoing that sentiment is out there.
Yeah, no,
it's coming from experts, and it's not to tell people that some of these changes that they're making by adding supplements, they fall void of benefit.
Right.
But man, there is a world of unrealized benefit.
Yes.
When you can tap into the things that I mentioned.
Right. We want people to buy supplements because it keeps us paid. But when it comes to helping people, and especially on a budget, you're kind of playing around the edges if you're not addressing the core issues.
Definitely.
And diet and
Very well
exercise,
said.
lifestyle. Those are all huge. So start there. If you don't have the funds, go exercise. Makes sense. Makes sense.
Absolutely. And there's really no, as far as like all cause mortality, you're hard pressed to see a more marked difference made, in terms of longevity for individuals that have higher amounts of muscle mass and higher amounts of strength specifically. All cause mortality is drastically reduced when you maintain both of those things for longer. So there's no amount of vitamin D, there's no amount of magnesium, on somebody who's generally healthy in that respect. There's no amount of any of those things that can make up for that.
You can't supplement your way out of a bad lifestyle.
I would say as specifically as just start lifting weights.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple.
Yeah. Yeah. I hate that it is that simple. I want it to be more complex than that.
Not simple as far as making the change, but just as far as like what did I take from that? It was just a very, just a simple point. That's all. But of course, not easy for everybody to just, for a multitude of reasons, to just make it happen.
So
that's where the focus should be.
So let's assume that my lifestyle is under control, that I am exercising, I'm eating a reasonable diet, and I have a little bit of money and I want to try and supplement. Are there certain things I should probably start with? Obviously it's individualized, but top 2 or 3 that everybody could consider.
Yeah. I guess to directly answer your question, couldn't go wrong with omegas and multivitamin, start there. But again, are you outside a lot? Vitamin D can creep in there very quickly.
Right.
If you have some bone issues, et cetera, you're taking a lot of calcium, magnesium can creep in there very quickly as well.
Yep.
So, I guess I kind of want to, and we can definitely go over that, but I just kind of want to touch on a couple things to be a little more specific in terms of maybe where the supplements real value comes in.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to take a few examples. We've talked about vitamin D, how critical it is. In terms of the supplement itself, it's a pretty simple supplement.
Yeah.
It's vitamin D3. It's put in an oil. It can be very cheaply made. That one in our brand, just being quite honest, versus a shelf brand. Yeah, ours is guaranteed quality, and maybe some of the other ones are a little iffy, but in general, you can get away with that. It's vitamin D is very simple. When you start talking about a fish oil, something that is extracted from a fish, essentially, now the quality becomes a major issue. Not just is everything from the amount of EPA and DHA in there is important, but still, what's on the label. These are not regulated like drugs, doesn't necessarily match what's on the bottle. So for something like a fish oil, you've got to look at, where the fish come from. Ours are from Nordic waters. You've got to look at the extraction method, molecular distillation. You've got to look at then after, are the positives in there, which is the correct amount of EPA and DHA, and are we free of the negatives, mercury, impurities, etc.
Right.
Then you've got to look at the time. So even if the product is made properly, it's got a 3-year shelf life. Where is it in 2.5 years? Our products eventually get tested years out, close to the expiration date. So I just put up one study from The Guardian, not a supplement website. So they don't have any skin in the game. 1 in 10 fish oil supplements. So that's where, again, people say, well, they'll name me a random brand. Is this good? I'm like, I don't know. It could be. It could be our quality, but it may not be. I can't tell you. All I can tell you is ours are good. I can't tell you a given one is bad per se.
Right.
Especially
we're not paying to test every other brand.
Exactly. There's a lot out there. So 1 in 10 tested from 60 large retailers. So any 10 companies that could be found in 60 large retailers were rancid. Essentially means they go bad. Smell, fishy taste, and basically the breakdown of the EPA and DHA. It's 1 out of 10. So then they also found basically 11 times higher than the recommended levels of what they're calling rancidity.
Ugh.
So, I mean, that's extremely common. These are just pulled off the shelf. These are not expired. So if you're talking about a fish oil and it's something you're going to take, that is one where the money's probably better spent than a vitamin D. Something like a probiotic as well. Ours are tested. Essentially, the way that it's manufactured is the label says 12 billion. It's got more like 15 or 16 because there is going to be some breakdown. So the 12 billion on the bottle is really where we can guarantee it is at the expiration date, for example. So that's one thing as well. It may start at 12 if the product says 12, but then if you take it 2 years later, it's at 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Not the end of the world, but again, those are things that, and also just the testing of them. It could say whatever it wants on the bottle, what's actually in there. Ours get tested that each of those live organisms is in there. So again, the labels can say anything they want in this industry.
Yeah.
And that's where we kind of make our hay, so to say, because we do test them, because we do work with particular companies. And then the multivitamin, it's not so much maybe about the quality of the product in terms of its testing, but it's about the forms that are in there. You've got the activated folate forms. Your body may not methylate real well and convert folic acid. It's got the active folic acid. It's got methyl B12. It's got better forms of magnesium. So that is more of literally the label is telling you what the difference is there versus maybe like our omegas. It's the behind the scenes stuff.
Sure.
It's not a mega dose or anything like that. It's the quality of how it's extracted. So those are a few specific examples. There's certainly more, but in a broad sense, quality starts to really break down to which is it tested and which product are you dealing with.
Okay, so let me see if I can translate this. So you said when it comes to supplementing on a budget, there are certain things you can cheap out on. You can go with the general brand and it's probably going to be fine. But for most of the heavy hitter products like an omega or probiotic, that going with a cheaper brand, not only is it not going to have the effect, but it may, in the case of a rancid fish oil, might actually be detrimental to you in buying that cheap product. And so you're officially wasting all of your money.
Correct.
Doing that.
Yeah. Not to mention then there's a lot of, smaller scale issues. Supplement companies kind of pop up and they make this really hot item, but it's because it's got a drug in there. And they sell it like crazy for 2 years, and then they get shut down. Things like that. Those things out there occur. I don't think that's the average thing you're going to grab at a pharmacy shelf, but it is out there. Yeah. And it is, especially if you're getting more specialty things. Dante has more to add to that, but that's certainly out there as well. So there are, concerns at different levels, but I certainly would be respectful of the budgetary concerns. And again, that's why I would, really help to, so even like vitamin C, if you're going for the absolute best vitamin C, yes, ours is worth spending the money on. And especially the powder form, it is expensive to make it palatable, to make it dissolvable with the minerals. But, if you're just looking for some basic, if you're just a low dose vitamin C, if you're looking to parse out, the budget and where to spend, where not, maybe you could do vitamin C, vitamin D. Those can be some basic things. Maybe you do kind of cut out, just being honest, vitamin C is far superior, ours, buffered, et cetera. But again, I'm just trying to stratify them is all.
Sure. Yeah. Makes sense. Are there any situations where, especially with budget in mind, we just skip the supplementation altogether and just stick with the pharmaceuticals and let it do its job?
That's a tough one to answer. You know what I mean?
I guess there's a billion different options there.
Yes, that's the only thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's a tough one. Again, I think with Deborah's example, like personally, not playing around with blood pressure.
Right.
Truthfully, again, it depends. I think it's going to depend on
how high is it? How long has it been up? What's going on? Yeah.
Right. But again, that definitely not something that we know it's not good to play around with it. So and we know there's drugs that work and are generally well tolerated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. But yeah, I guess that's why it's a tough one to answer.
Yeah. I mean, certainly, the seriousness of the issue. I mean, that's a really obvious answer. If you're having trouble, God forbid, breathing, you have asthma, you have COPD, there are drugs you need to take.
Yeah.
There blood pressure, there are some pretty innocent drugs. So I just think that, again, it's like a cop-out answer, but it's very individualized.
Sure.
And it's really about the severity of the condition as well as the severity of your stage in it. Are you young with very slightly mildly elevated blood pressure? Can we kind of intervene early on with some magnesium and hawthorn? Potentially, sure. Do you have multiple, morbidities and you're 75 and your blood pressure, you just you're refusing to take the med or whatever. You refuse the new one that the doctor added on because you don't want to take a third one and your numbers are running high. Yeah, you've got to take the drug. So, I think we're always going to be balanced about that as much as possible when it comes to when to take meds and when the meds are good, okay, however you term it.
The problem is, and just keeping it 100 right here, is that, working in this business, between the pharmacy business, the supplement business, the talk show business, all this kind of stuff, is that there is a dichotomy of our listenership, right? It's people hard fast in one camp, hard fast in the other. These guys are crazy because they recommend supplements, and vice versa.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're crazy because all they want to do is put you on blood pressure medication.
Right.
When really, I'm just kind of over that stark dichotomy, like medication versus no medication, supplement versus, just trying to make that distinction, I think has gotten quite exhausting. And in my mind, the pharmaceutical industry is humongous. The supplement industry is humongous.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, if you think that one really has the best interests for you versus the other, if you're looking at it from like the level of the CEO, like just go home and Google the size of the supplement industry. Just go home and Google the size of the pharmaceutical industry. You'll see these are both very big industries,
right?
But that's fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's fine. There's a benefit and there's a continual process of advancement and testing and safety assurance and all these things that come along with those industries growing as well. So again, just kind of to back up, it's that the dichotomy is exhausting.
Yeah.
And there's a place for both, truly. And again, they're both big industries and they both have flaws.
Yeah.
They really do. And I think that's the crux of this question too, is that most people here are going to have a balance of both of those things. And it's hard sometimes to be so black and white about it.
Yeah. And nowadays being in the middle doesn't really sell well, so to say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there are times even I wonder, like, are we not being bold enough or making enough? But sometimes being in the middle with some of these things is what's bold.
Well,
because like Dante said, it's the constant dichotomy of you're a kook because you're recommending supplements, or you're a pawn of the drug industry because you said the drugs are okay.
Because you're recommending a $2.99 statin.
Yeah.
Like you're working for big statin.
Yeah.
I mean, but I digress. Yeah, you're right.
But the point you're making is that we're always going to do our best to tell you the truth as best we see.
Do our best. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. And that's what we want. This got a lot more philosophical than I expected it to. I
like that though. That's like the elephant in the room a lot of times, what Dante brought up. It is.
Sure. For sure. But again, it's and I know I said working in these businesses and, personalized it a lot, but you if we're speaking to a pharmacist at home or a pharmacy technician or somebody that casually walks into a drugstore, there's going to be supplements on the shelf.
Yep.
There's going to be over the counters. There's medications. It's everywhere. It's just the part of the way the world is. And so the better that you can recognize so to speak, a good product, safe product versus this company that just popped up off the street and they have no labeling to show who tested their product or if their laboratory is, good manufacturing
practices.
Yes. It's right. This is more or less just a, commentary on the, whether you're the consumer or the pharmacist or the technician, that it's going to be around you at all times. But I would say two other products that for me that have sort of, that maybe you don't need, but that have become kind of non-negotiable personally.
Sure.
Would just be having protein powder on hand at all times, and also creatine powder. So again, we talked about how important muscle strengthening activities are, and I'm not going to harp on that much more since I was on my soapbox for a minute. We know that consuming adequate protein is essential for more than just bodybuilders. I don't think supplemental protein is necessary on a daily basis, but there's invariably going to be instances where we were busy or we didn't grocery shop yet that you are going to fail, so to speak, on your daily protein requirement, whatever that is. So protein powder is something that bridges the gap. You can leave it in your office drawer. You can leave it in your pantry. You can leave it sort of wherever. It's quick and easy. It's a good, healthy, clean source of food and macronutrient. What we carry is not loaded with carbohydrates and fats. It's a protein isolate, whether in the plant form or in the whey form, doesn't really matter. Both of them have enough in the way of, the amino acid profiles are concerned. But again, having some protein on hand kind of can't go wrong. It takes me 2-3 months to go through a 30 serving protein container. And again, that's just because for the most part, I can kind of squeeze it in with foods, but I'm okay with kind of considering a protein powder another source of food.
Sure.
Especially if that means you skipping a serving or two of protein a day.
Right.
So that would be number one. Number two, again, is the creatine. Exercise, again, essential for good health. For some, maximizing performance of that exercise is of priority.
Yeah.
And so the verdict is out on creatine. It's safe, it's effective, it's reasonably priced, it's well tolerated, it checked all the boxes that we mentioned with, some of the other products. Mm-hmm. Basically, it just improves our capacity to exercise by the way of enhancing ATP or energy regeneration. So if you want to try to maximize the amount of muscle strength over a lifetime that you can sort of accumulate, or you want to maximize the amount of muscle mass, creatine is just another example of something that you can take, 2.5 to 5 grams a day with minimal downside, with, all those boxes checked that, have a benefit. There's even the potential for cognitive benefits as well. It's a bit more controversial, but again, we have videos on creatine. I mean, you could go on YouTube and watch 1,000 videos on creatine.
Oh, yeah.
There's multiple consensus statements from major organizations about the safety and utility of creatine for most athletes and for most, sort of regular Joes. And
that's worth considering.
The proof's in the pudding, and it's worth at least considering.
That makes sense.
And just to emphasize the protein, like Dante said, but just to emphasize it again, more than muscles, protein is going to help you curb hunger. It's going to help kind of flatline or keep your blood sugar more steady. It's a good form of energy, of glucose for the body. Again, slow release, and also precursor to your neurotransmitters, your brain neurotransmitters, calming neurotransmitters, etc. Their precursor is protein. So when you're missing that or you're low from your diet, it's again a lot more than just muscles.